What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 1985 Chevy Camaro Z28 IROC-Z. Up front is a 5.0 liter V8, and down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this IROC-Z for two reasons. First of all, if you want to talk third-gen Camaros, this is the one you want to talk about. The IROC-Z has become iconic from this era, and I'm so excited to sink my teeth into one today. But the second reason is that this is my favorite generation of Camaro. However, I've never driven one until this very moment. And so I'll share with you towards the end of the video why this is my favorite generation, because it's more than just my love for the 1980s. But if you would like to share your vehicle with me and have it reviewed here on the channel, just like this car, you can head on over to my website, zackprato.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form, takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that 305 under the hood, making somewhere in the 200s of horsepower. It's kind of debated, and at this time, horsepower was kind of a touchy subject because we were still coming off the oil crisis, and V8s weren't as powerful as they used to be. Now, this does make a lot more torque than it does horsepower, and actually driving it around, I don't feel underpowered at all. I actually feel like I have a very healthy amount of power, a very fun amount of power. But this did get tuned port fuel injection, according to Chevy, and the IROC-Z was the top performance version of the Camaro. They did sell these with V6s in the RS trim, but this is the big V8, and we're having fun with it today. Now, like I said, paired to it is a 4-speed automatic. You can tell that the shifter has been changed, but they could come in 5-speed as well. This is the 4-speed auto, and honestly, I don't mind it. It's shifting okay. It's a little lazy, but any vehicle from this era is going to be pretty lazy when it comes to the shifts of their automatic. We've been spoiled by today's modern cars with how quickly they can shift and dual clutches and all that stuff. This one, it takes its time. Last but not least about the drivetrain, of course, the IROC-Z is rear-wheel drive. So how does it feel to drive an IROC-Z? Well, it's interesting because it's all low-end grunt. Once you start revving it out, you start to see its shortcomings pretty quickly, but around town, you feel the might of that V8 under the hood. And that's what's lovely about this era of V8s, is that just driving it to and from the store, school, work, you get to feel that power. That's really, really nice here in the Camaro. Now, visibility is really good because this is an 80s car and I have very thin A-pillars. Steering is a little heavier than I would have expected. However, for a sports car, that's right on brand and what I would personally want. The brakes need a little bit of persuasion, but overall, I'm enjoying my time here in the IROC-Z. However, with that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 5 gauges. Off to the left is my speedometer that only goes up to 85 miles an hour, very characteristic of the 1980s. Then in the center, we get our coolant temperature, fuel, and battery voltage. And off to the right, we get our tachometer with oil pressure inside of that. So plenty of nice goodies here in the IROC-Z. On the steering wheel, I don't have any forward-facing buttons or buttons at all. Very thin steering wheel, no airbag. This is still pre-airbag, and it does feel very sporty. Reminds me a lot of my RX-7 back in the day. Off to the left, I have my headlight and fog light switches, as well as 2 climate control vents. And moving on to the door, I have my manual mirror adjustments, lock and unlock, and latch to get in and out. This all feels very American, very Top Gun, very bolted in. I feel like it's sort of a fighter pilot cockpit with these exposed bolts, which may or may not be real. I don't know. A lot of cars in this era had fake exposed bolts just to look cool. A very interesting look over there. Moving into the center, we have more interesting looks. First of all, I do have 2 climate control vents, 12-volt outlet, and rear defrost, but then I get a bunch of blank space. It seems like they could have easily moved the climate controls and radio up a bit, but they didn't. And so I just have this bar going the width of the interior. Kind of an interesting look, an interesting design cue. Then we do have the air conditioning and heat options. Super simple here. Turn dial to the left for the fan speed, where to send it, and temperature. That's it. Then we do have an aftermarket radio because radios of this era don't keep up with modern stuff, even though this originally came with the ERS extended range sound system. it's still not that great, so it's been swapped out. Then we do have our little ashtray down below, probably one of the most utilized parts of the 3rd gen Camaro. Like I said, the owner has swapped this out for an aftermarket shifter, so this isn't what the original shifter would have looked like or operated as, but I like the feeling of it. Off to the right, we have our handbrake, and then in the center, we have our 2 unlabeled window controls, and in the center of that, we have our rear hatch open. So pretty cool to see that stuff there, but I wish they would have had a label on it. Maybe they did back in the day, but as of now, they don't. What's missing from here is a cup holder. There are no cup holders in the 1985 Chevy Camaro's IROC-Z, so unfortunately, but predictably, it fails the big friggin' bottle test. Then we do have a little center console, and we'll talk about the seats. Now, this is known as the saddle interior because this was a light tan beige sort of interior. And according to the owner, and from whatever research I've been able to do, this seems to be the more rarer option for the IROC-Zs. Most of them had black interiors. So very cool to be driving something a little bit more special, a little bit more unique than maybe your run-of-the-mill IROC from 85. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. Oh, I'm stuck. Okay, so we're in the back. I'm mostly in the back. To be fair, my left leg is not in the back of this IROC-Z Camaro. 3rd gen Camaro. Let's get it in. Oh, I don't know if that's possible. All right, so I'm in the back here. It's not good. Not good at all. I just have lap belts, which is kind of funny. It's not good back here. If I was a very young child, maybe, but although I've tried to tell people, I'm not a young child anymore, unfortunately. So back here is not good. But we do have a trunk to talk about. That's kind of cool. So let's go talk about the trunk. All right, around the back of the IROC-Z. Pull this up like this. The struts are a little bit tired. That's okay. So am I on a morning like this. Oh, yeah, we're going to have to hold that. But once we are in the back, it's an interesting layout here. First of all, we do have the bags for the T-tops, which is very, very nice. This car is outfitted with T-tops, because of course it is. But we do have this really deep storage well, but then a very shallow one up there. So if you have to fit like L-shaped objects, boy, is this the car for you. But if you don't, it might be a little bit tricky to stack stuff in here. We do have a lockable container over here. Very cool to see that. And we do have a little light, which is very cool as well. But other than that, this is the rear cargo space of an IROC-Z Camaro. And of course, the trunk is now cooperating. Who knows why? Let's talk about the looks. Now we got to talk about the looks, and I love the look of the 3rd gen Camaro. I think it's so iconic. I think it's so homely. I think it's so lovely and just so 80s. It's angular and it's strange and different, and no Camaro before it or since it has looked this way. This is a total offshoot of the Camaro brand as a whole. And I love that. I love how different and interesting it looks. I love big taillights and the sort of recessed headlights. I think overall it's just such an interesting and cool looking automobile. However, with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think finally driving a 3rd generation Camaro? Well, first of all, I do want to say it's very cool to be driving an IROC-Z, and especially a 1985 one, because this generation of Camaro debuted in 1982, but it wasn't until this year of 1985 that they actually introduced the IROC. So the infamous IROC started this year. This is one of the first IROCs ever produced. And to me, that's just super special. I've driven older Camaros, I've driven newer Camaros, and so it's cool to really bridge that gap. And being a big fan of cars from the 1980s, of course I was excited to drive this. But there's a little bit more to it than that. You see, I was born in 1997. And before I was born, my mom owned a 3rd generation Camaro. Now, it wasn't an IROC, it wasn't a Z28, it was actually an RS with the V6. But she owned a 3rd gen. It was blue. And it was the first new car she had ever purchased. And she chose a Chevy Camaro. However, I actually never got to ride in that car because the back seats wouldn't support 2 car seats. I already had an older brother who was born 2 years before me, and his car seat fit fine in the Camaro, but 2 wouldn't. And so when she had me, she sold her Camaro. And so I've grown up my whole 26-year-long life hearing stories about her Camaro. Now, they weren't all positive. Her car was actually a lemon law car, and it was a whole shebang. Whatever, that doesn't matter. The important part is that I've never driven one, and I've grown up hearing stories and seeing pictures about the third gen. To me, I've built it up to be this insanely fun car. And while I am enjoying it, this is a fun vehicle, it means more to me than that. What this car really symbolizes to me is my mom's youth. Quite literally, she gave this up to start a family. She gave this up to have me. I'm here because she got rid of her Camaro. And so to be driving one here today, it's a very full circle moment. And to push it a little bit further, just in how much this particular car means to me, the first car I ever purchased with my own money was a 1985, same year as this car, red, same color as this car, Mazda RX-7. And when I went to the DMV to get my plates, this is the license plate that they gave me. And everyone would ask me if my RX-7 was a Camaro. I think this review was just meant to be. To drive a red 85 Z28 IROC is almost a melding between my first car and my mom's first new car purchase. And so this car gets dogged on quite a bit. People call it trailer park trash. They say there's factory installed Marlboro Reds in the glove box. This is the mullet vehicle through and through. And maybe some of those stereotypes are true. Maybe some of them are false. I don't know. But in my personal experience, I can tell you that this car is very near and dear to my heart, and it will continue to be that way. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Jake for letting me take out his IROC-Z. I was so incredibly excited for him when he reached out to me with this car. This is the third gen to review, and I was so excited we were able to put this together. Jake has been absolutely awesome to work with. His dad also has an IROC-Z that he's owned since new, and that is a little bit of a project car at the moment, and I wish him and his father the best on that long but worthwhile journey with their other IROC. But huge thank you to Jake for making this video possible. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.